He sewed a white dress for a ragged giant girl. All the warriors came to the wedding. But at the edge of this peaceful town lived someone everyone talked about, yet no one truly knew. She was a very tall girl, taller than most men, with wide shoulders and strong arms. People called her a giant, not because she wanted that name, but because they did not know what else to call her. Her clothes were old and torn, patched many times with rough thread. Dust often clung to her sleeves and the hem of her dress dragged across the ground. She lived in a broken shed near the fields, a place others avoided. No one remembered when she first arrived. Some said she had been born nearby and abandoned. Others believed she came from far away after losing her family. No one ever asked her the truth. They were too afraid or too quick to judge. When she walked through the town to look for work or food, conversations stopped. Mothers pulled their children closer. Shopkeepers watched her carefully, worried she might break something or scare customers away. Yet she never raised her voice, never pushed anyone, and never took what was not given to her. Her eyes were calm, often lowered, as if she had learned that looking directly at people only brought trouble. Her hands were rough, marked by years of heavy work. She helped farmers lift stones from fields, repaired broken fences, and carried sacks that two men struggled to move. Sometimes she was paid with bread, sometimes with leftover soup, and sometimes with nothing at all. At night, when the town lights dimmed, she returned to her shed. She ate quietly and slept on a thin mat. The cold often found its way through the cracks in the walls, but she wrapped herself tighter and waited for morning. She did not complain. Life had taught her long ago that complaining changed nothing. Despite her hard life, she was not bitter. She listened carefully when others spoke, even when they spoke unkindly. She remembered small things like which child liked apples and which old man needed help standing up. When a cart broke on the road, she was the first to run and lift it free. When storms came, she helped cover roofs with cloth and would so homes would not be damaged. Yet no one thanked her openly. Help from her made people uncomfortable. They accepted it quickly and looked away, pretending it had not happened. Inside her heart lived quiet dreams she never spoke aloud. She wondered what it would feel like to wear clean clothes that fit properly, to sit at a table without people staring, to laugh without fear. Sometimes, when she passed the tailor's shop, she slowed her steps. She watched dresses in the window, white and soft, moving gently in the wind. She did not imagine wearing one. She only wondered what it might feel like to touch such cloth. The children were the only ones who did not fully fear her. Some were curious, peeking from behind doors or walls. Once, when a little boy fell and hurt his knee, she picked him up carefully and carried him to his home. The boy's mother thanked her quietly, but the next day avoided her again. That was how life continued. Days passed, seasons changed, and the giant girl remained on the edge of everything. Seen but not accepted, needed but never welcomed. One evening, the town faced a sudden problem. Heavy rain had caused the river to rise fast. A wooden bridge that connected the fields to the town began to crack. Farmers shouted for help as animals and carts were stuck on the wrong side. Many men tried to hold the bridge steady, but it was not enough. Without waiting for permission, the giant girl stepped forward. She placed her feet firmly in the mud, braced her body, and held the bridge supports with all her strength. Rain poured over her face and soaked her clothes, but she did not move. One by one, people crossed safely. When the last cart passed, she stepped back and the bridge finally gave way behind her. No one cheered, no one clapped. But the silence felt different. People looked at her with something new in their eyes, something close to confusion. She turned and walked away before anyone could speak. That night she sat alone in her shed, cold and tired. Her hands shook from the effort she had made, but her heart felt strangely calm. She had done what she always did: help when needed, ask for nothing. She did not know that someone had been watching her that day, not with fear but with understanding. She did not know that her life, long defined by distance and silence, was slowly approaching a moment that would change everything. For now, she lay down, closed her eyes, and rested. Tomorrow would come just like every other day. Or so she believed. The next morning began like any other. The sun rose slowly over the hills, and the town woke to the sound of doors opening and footsteps on stone paths. The giant girl stepped out of her shed, brushed the dust from her clothes, and started walking toward the fields. She did not know that someone was watching her from a small shop near the main road. The tailor had lived in the town his entire life. His shop was narrow, filled with rolls of cloth, needles, and thread in many colors. He was a quiet man, known more for his patience than his words. People trusted him because he listened carefully and worked slowly, making sure every stitch was strong. He noticed things others missed. That morning, he saw the giant girl passing by his shop. Instead of fear, he felt curiosity. He had seen her many times before, always working, always alone. He remembered how she had held the broken bridge the night before. While others had stood frozen, she had acted without hesitation. Later that day, the tailor watched from his doorway as she helped an old farmer lift heavy wood onto a cart. The farmer's hands shook with age, but she moved gently, careful not to scare him. When the work was done, she nodded and stepped back, ready to leave without expecting payment. "Wait," the tailor said, surprising even himself. She stopped and turned slowly, her eyes lowering as they always did when someone spoke to her. She stood very still, as if ready to leave if he showed fear. "You did good work yesterday," he said calmly. "The bridge would have taken lives if not for you." He never asked questions that made her uncomfortable. Slowly, she stopped lowering her head so much. She began to meet his eyes, if only for a moment. One afternoon, she brought a torn sleeve to his shop. The cloth was thin and worn, but he repaired it carefully, making it stronger than before. She watched his hands move, precise and gentle. "You're good with your hands," she said softly. It was the first time he had heard her speak. "So are you," he replied. From that day she visited more often, not always to fix clothes. Sometimes she just stood quietly while he worked. He did not push her to talk. Silence, he understood, could also be a kind of conversation. He learned small things about her life. She had no family left. She worked where she could. She slept in the shed because no one had offered her another place. She did not speak of pain, but it lived between her words. The tailor, in return, shared his own quiet story. He had never married. His days were full of work, and his nights were long and silent. He had learned to accept that life did not always give what one hoped for. As weeks passed, the town began to notice something strange. The giant girl was seen near the tailor's shop more often. People whispered. Some warned him to be careful, others laughed quietly. He ignored them all. What he saw was not a giant to fear, but a person who had been alone for too long. One evening, a group of children gathered near the shop. They were curious, watching through the open door. The tailor handed them scraps of cloth to play with. The giant girl smiled at them, a small, unsure smile that surprised even her. The children laughed and showed her what they made. For the first time, she felt something warm in her chest, something close to belonging. That night, the tailor walked her part of the way back to her shed. They spoke about simple things, the weather, the crops, the river. When they reached the edge of the fields, he stopped. "You don't have to live alone forever," he said gently. She looked at him, confused and afraid. No one had ever said such words to her. "I don't know any other way," she replied. He did not answer right away. Some things needed time. As days turned into months, their bond grew stronger. He began to see her strength not just in her body, but in her heart. She had endured without turning cold. She had helped without expecting thanks. She began to see him as someone safe, someone who saw her, not her size. One morning, she arrived at the shop with a deep cut on her hand from work. The tailor cleaned it carefully and wrapped it in cloth. His touch was respectful, steady. "You should rest today," he said. "I don't like being useless," she replied. "You are never useless," he said simply. Those words stayed with her long after she left. The town still whispered. Fear does not disappear quickly, but something had changed. The giant girl was no longer completely alone. And the tailor, once silent in his own way, had found someone worth listening to. Neither of them knew where this path would lead. They only knew that walking it together felt right. The bond between the tailor and the giant girl grew quietly, without promises or big words. It grew in small moments that felt safe and honest. She began to arrive at the shop earlier each day, sometimes before the sun fully rose. She helped sweep the floor, carry rolls of cloth, and organize the shelves. Her large hands moved carefully, as if afraid to damage anything delicate. At first, customers looked uncomfortable when they saw her inside the shop. Some hesitated at the door. The tailor greeted them calmly, just as he always had. He did not explain. He did not defend. His calm made others feel foolish for their fear. Slowly, people stopped reacting so strongly. They still watched, but they no longer turned away. One afternoon, an old woman came to the shop to fix her shawl. Her eyesight was weak and her hands shook. The giant girl gently helped her sit down. She held the cloth steady while the tailor worked. When the shawl was finished, the old woman smiled at her. "You have kind hands," she said. The giant girl froze for a moment. Kind was not a word often used for her. She nodded, unsure how to respond, but something inside her softened. That evening, the tailor noticed she was quieter than usual. "What's on your mind?" he asked. "I don't understand why you are kind to me," she said honestly. Others were not. After closing the shop, he stayed behind, measuring cloth, sketching carefully on paper. He chose soft white fabric, strong but gentle to the touch. Every stitch mattered. He worked slowly, imagining how it would move, how it would feel. The giant girl noticed his tired eyes and asked no questions. She trusted him. One morning, word reached the town that travelers had arrived from distant lands. They wore old armor and carried the marks of long journeys. People whispered uneasy. Some remembered old stories of conflict and danger. The giant girl noticed them too. Her step slowed. A shadow passed over her face, something from the past rising quietly. That night she did not come to the shop. The tailor waited longer than usual. When she still did not arrive the next morning, he grew concerned. He closed the shop early and walked toward her shed. He found her sitting outside, staring at the ground. "They are here," she said before he could speak. "Who?" he asked. "People from long ago," she replied. "They remind me of a time I tried to forget." Years ago, she had been traveling alone when she found a group of injured fighters trapped after a storm. Their path was blocked and danger surrounded them. She had stayed with them, protected them, carried the injured to safety, and helped them survive. When help arrived, she left quietly before anyone could ask her name. "I did not want praise," she said. "I just wanted to keep moving." He looked older, his hair marked by time. When he saw the giant girl standing near the door, his eyes widened. "It's you," he said softly. She stiffened, ready to step back. He bowed his head. "You saved us. We never forgot." The traveler spoke of courage, of nights when hope was almost gone, and of a tall, quiet girl who stood between danger and the helpless. For the first time, the town saw her through someone else's eyes. She felt overwhelmed and stepped outside. The tailor followed. "You didn't ask for this," he said gently. "I just wanted peace," she replied. "And you deserve it," he said. "All of it." "I don't know how to wear something like that," she whispered. "You will learn," he said, "and I'll be there." And what lay ahead would be even bigger than anything she had faced before. The days after the travelers revealed her past felt different for everyone in the town. People no longer looked at the giant girl with only fear. Now their eyes carried curiosity, respect, and sometimes shame. She noticed the change immediately. Greetings became softer. Doors no longer closed so quickly when she passed. Still, she moved carefully, unsure how to live in this new space where she was finally seen. The tailor continued his work quietly. He adjusted the white dress each night, making small changes so it would fit her perfectly and feel comfortable. He measured again and again, knowing this dress was more than cloth. It was a promise. He never rushed. He wanted it to be right. News spread beyond the town faster than anyone expected. The travelers told their story wherever they went. They spoke of the tall girl who had stood firm when hope was low, who had protected them without asking for anything. Those words traveled across roads, through camps, and into distant settlements. One by one, people who had once walked beside danger and survived because of her began to arrive. At first, only two came. They walked into town quietly, wearing worn armor and calm expressions. They asked for her by description, not by name, because they had never known it. When they saw her near the tailor's shop, they stopped and bowed their heads. She felt her chest tighten. She was not used to this kind of attention. More came the next day and the next. They did not come with noise or pride, they came with respect. Some brought small gifts, simple things like woven cloth, dried food, or tools. Others brought only words of thanks. Each one shared a memory, a night guarded, a path cleared, a life saved. The town watched in silence as the truth unfolded piece by piece. The giant girl tried to step back to stay out of sight, but the tailor gently held her hand. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said. She did not pull away. As the number of visitors grew, the town had to change. Homes opened their doors. Fires burned longer into the night. Meals were shared. The people who once avoided the giant girl now stood beside her, listening. One evening, a respected elder from the travelers' group spoke openly in the town square. His voice was steady and warm. "We owe our lives to her," he said. "Strength guided by kindness is rare. We came not only to thank her, but to honor her." She had not thought of the word like that, spoken aloud in front of others. The tailor squeezed her hand gently. "Yes," he said simply. The elder smiled. "Then we will stay if allowed, not as guards, not as fighters, but as witnesses." Clean cloth for decorations, extra food. Even those who once whispered now worked quietly, trying to make amends through action. The giant girl struggled with attention. She had lived her whole life unseen, and now she felt exposed. Some nights she sat alone behind the shop, wondering if she deserved all of this. The tailor found her there one evening. "You are thinking again," he said. "I am afraid," she admitted. "What if this is not real? What if they leave and everything goes back to how it was?" They repaired roads, fixed roofs, and shared stories with children. They showed the town that strength could live peacefully. Fear slowly loosened its grip. One afternoon, the giant girl finally tried on the white dress. The tailor helped her step into it carefully. The cloth felt cool and smooth against her skin. When she looked at herself, she barely recognized the reflection. She did not see a giant. She saw a woman standing tall. Tears filled her eyes. "It's too much," she whispered. "It's just enough," he replied. Word spread quickly. People gathered, but no one pushed forward. They waited respectfully. When she stepped outside, dressed in white, the town fell silent. She did not bow her head. The travelers stood in a line, placing their hands over their hearts. Not in salute, but in gratitude. In that moment something healed, not just for her, but for everyone who had learned too late how wrong they had been. As the wedding day approached, the town felt lighter. Laughter returned to places where fear once lived. The giant girl walked through the streets without shrinking herself. Children waved. Elders nodded. She was still strong, still tall. But now she was also welcomed. And the warriors stayed, not because they were needed, but because they wanted to stand beside the one who had once stood for them. The wedding day arrived quietly, as if the morning itself wanted to be gentle. The sky was clear, and a soft breeze moved through the town, carrying the smell of clean earth and fresh flowers. People woke early, not out of duty but out of excitement. This day felt different from any other the town had known. The giant girl stood inside the tailor's shop, her hands resting at her sides. The white dress hung perfectly on her strong frame. It did not hide who she was, and it did not try to make her smaller. Instead, it honored her as she was. The cloth moved softly when she breathed, and for the first time in her life she felt comfortable wearing something made just for her. She looked at her reflection again. She still saw the years of hard work in her eyes. She still saw strength. But now she also saw peace. The tailor stood nearby, adjusting his simple clothes. He looked calm, but inside his heart was full. He had never imagined this day when he first noticed her passing his shop. Yet now it felt natural, like something that had been waiting to happen. Outside, the town had gathered. There was no grand hall, no heavy decorations. The wedding was held in the open square, where everyone could stand together. Flowers from nearby fields were placed along the path. Children helped scatter petals, laughing as they worked. The travelers stood at the edges of the square not as guards but as friends. They wore clean clothes and calm expressions. Their presence was strong yet peaceful. They did not draw attention to themselves. They were there to honor, not to impress. When the giant girl stepped outside, a deep silence fell over the crowd. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of respect. She walked slowly, her steps steady. She did not rush. Each step felt like a memory passing behind her. The shed, the cold nights, the lowered eyes, the long years of being unseen. Now she walked forward without shame. The tailor waited at the center of the square. When he saw her approaching, his face softened. He did not see her size. He saw the person who had carried more than anyone should have and still remained kind. They stood facing each other, surrounded by people who had once kept their distance. The town elder spoke simple words about unity, understanding, and the strength found in kindness. There were no long speeches. Everyone already understood what this day meant. When the elder asked if they wished to walk forward together, they both answered quietly but clearly, "Yes." A soft sound moved through the crowd, something between a sigh and a smile. As they stood side by side, the giant girl felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. It was not pride. It was not relief. It was belonging. She glanced toward the travelers. One by one, they placed their hands over their hearts. Some closed their eyes for a moment. They remembered nights of danger and fear and the tall figure who had stood firm when all seemed lost. This was not just a wedding. It was a thank you spoken without words. When the ceremony ended, there was no loud cheer. Instead, the crowd stepped forward slowly. One by one, people offered simple gifts. Bread, flowers, handwritten notes, even quiet apologies spoken with lowered voices. The giant girl accepted each one with grace. She did not hold onto the past. She understood that change takes time, and this moment mattered more than old mistakes. Food was shared in the open. Long tables were set up and everyone ate together. The travelers sat beside farmers. Children ran between elders. Laughter filled the air, light and real. The giant girl moved through the crowd carefully, still adjusting to being seen so openly. Everywhere she turned, she found gentle smiles instead of fearful glances. People asked her about her work, her favorite food, her plans. Simple questions that felt like gifts. At one point, a young child tugged gently at her dress. "You look like a story," the child said. She smiled and knelt carefully. "I am just a person," she replied. Later in the day, as the sun began to lower, the tailor and the giant girl stepped away from the noise for a moment. They stood at the edge of the square, watching the town they both called home. "Do you feel different?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "I feel the same," she said. "But the world feels different." As the night grew deeper, the travelers prepared to leave. One by one, they approached her. They did not speak loudly. They did not ask for anything. "You gave us life," one said. "Today, we see you receive it back." But a small house nearby, prepared by the town without asking for thanks. As she stepped inside, she paused. "All my life," she said softly, "I thought I was meant to stand alone." But it changed. And the town never forgot the lesson she taught them without ever meaning to, that true strength does not ask to be seen, but when it is, it can change everything.